All right, now again, today we start with, or we continue with your discussion in general science with Doc H. And of course, you have seen him. He's not just a school principal, he's very talented. He's a singer, he's a dancer. I know this for a fact because I've worked with him for so many years. He's a licensed civil engineer. Of course, he's the former MTOP president. He is licensed guidance counselor, and of course he finished his MA for science education, also his PhD in science education concentration in math at West Visayas State University, his MEd for guidance at the University of the Philippines, and baka makalimutan ko ulit, he considers his best achievement having, of course, his two beautiful and smart daughters. One of them, of course, is now his co-teacher in Ateneo. Okay, he called them his sisters. Okay, kasi halos magkakaedad lang sila. You know, Sir H looks very young. Okay, so again, we present you now with our guest lecturer, and we welcome back Doc H.
31. All the acids contain the element what? This is important. All the acids contain what element? I think I discussed this one yesterday, but I have to move fast now. Forgive me if I have to move fast. We still have 40 more items, and we only have about 30 minutes. Acids contain the element hydrogen. Take note, that normally acids contain hydrogen. So if you have some different list of compounds and you are asked which among these compounds, without even the name, is an acid, so at least you would already, that's one answer, one question answered. I look for a compound with hydrogen because those with no hydrogen may not anymore be an acid. So see, this concept can already help you in choosing the right answer, even if you don't know what an acid is. Okay? What an acid in terms of its chemical name is. Okay, 32. The gas which is given off by all animals is called what? Animals, that includes us, diba? So what gas do we give off? Or do other animals give off? Okay. So I think clear sa atin, bakit carbon dioxide? So we inhale oxygen and we exhale carbon dioxide. Okay, the same with other animals, mammals especially. Okay, so which element, number 33, which of the following is not an element? I think this one is, thank you for your answers, carbon dioxide. Everybody got the right answer. Number 33, which of the following is not an element? Is it calcium? Well, I will say the list first later when the answer is revealed. Is it A, B, C, or D? And the answer is, ngayon lang lumalabas yung mga answers sa 20 second delay nga. So, 33, which not an element? The answer is CO or carbon monoxide. Okay, 34. Which of the following converts radiant to electrical? Which of the following converts radiant energy to electrical energy? Dry cell, electrical cell, solar cell, wet cell. By the way, take note before I forget, there are conversions of energy from one form to the other that are not possible to happen directly. For example, mechanical energy can be turned into electrical energy using a correct device. But you cannot just transform mechanical energy directly to nuclear energy or mechanical energy to light energy. It doesn't transform directly that way. So what happens is that you transform the mechanical energy first to a particular energy where it can transform into excuse me, solar energy. So hindi pwedeng mechanical direct to solar or solar to mechanical, and the same thing with mechanical to nuclear. So there are conversions of energy which can be done directly, but there are others which cannot be done directly. It goes through another form first, to one form first before it goes to another form. Okay, so the answer here is solar cells, correct? Okay, again, no, energy conversion can happen directly or indirectly. Number 35, which material does not allow heat to pass through? Okay, this has to do with insulation and conduction. If the material does not allow heat to pass through, is it an insulator or a conductor? So, by the way, an insulator and a conductor, insulation or conduction is not a 100% proof thing. So, for example, what I mean is that if the element is if the substance is an insulator, it doesn't mean that it is an insulator 100%. No, it just, what it says is that it's just more of an insulator than a conductor, because all materials can be conductors, at least majority of them, and all materials can be insulators at one point, at one condition. For example, water. Water can be a good conductor of electricity, but water can also be a good insulator of electricity, or insulator or conductor of heat. So it depends on the condition and situation. So in this case, what material does not allow heat to pass through? The answer is rubber. Okay, at a particular point, remember we're talking about dimensions here, but rubber at a particular point can also turn into a conductor of electricity. So, but rubber is more associated with insulation. Okay, especially in unearthly matters. Okay, 36. Reflected sound. Anong tawag sa reflected sound? Okay. We have acoustic, echo, sonar, vibration. Okay. Thank you, Rachel, for answering insulator. Okay, rubber, etc. So, number 36 na tayo. A reflected sound is called what? And, okay. May sagot si Lizelle. Bakit N yung sagot mo? Bakit N sagot ni Lizelle? Anyway, so, it's not sonar, anak, but a reflected sound is called an echo. Okay? So, on letter B. Okay? So, that's the reflected sound. And when it hits the wall, so it's echo. But also take note of concepts like acoustics or sonar. Sonar is the equipment and the process. No, acoustic is the science of sound. Affects the potential energy of the object. Okay. Remember, in problems like this again, if you don't know the factors or you're not familiar, you're not so sure of it, go back to its definition, go back to the concept, or go back to the equation. Ano bang equation ng potential energy? Mass, mgh, mass times acceleration due to gravity, or g times the height, okay, of the object, perpendicular height with respect to the, well, if it's on Earth, to the floor, no? So, well, to the Earth's, to the level, no, to the sea level. So, in this case, since potential energy is mgh, so what are the factors affecting potential energy? Okay, so answers are all answers are A except for some with B. Okay, so the answer is C. So force and distance, remember distance, mgh, although distance is still h, and mg can still be force, but it's not the exact answer. So A is the near, one of the near answers, but it's not the most correct answer because distance can be different. No, it's not all the time height. Force is not all the time weight. But for potential energy, it's weight and height. Bakit weight? Weight is mg, di ba? mgh, potential energy is mgh. So mg means weight, mass times g. And height is the h. And the equation, potential energy equals to mgh. That's why C is the answer for number 37. Now, please be reminded of the different equations for kinetic and gravitational potential energy. Again, we're talking about gravitational potential energy here, not the other kinds of potential energy. So kinetic energy is 1/2 mv squared, v being velocity, and m being mass. And gravitational potential energy, or GPE, is mgh. And G here is 9.8 meter per second squared. If you're looking for the GPE of an object in a particular planet, then the G changes. or the G can change if you are not at sea level, if you're on Earth. So by the way, the more you are away from the center of the Earth, the more that the G goes down. No? So 9.8 is the maximum G at the level, at Earth's level, sea level. And then as you go on top of the mountain, the G lowers down, maybe 9.7 meter per second squared. So do you weigh less if you're on top of the mountain, relatively speaking, compared to if you're at sea level? Yes, because the G is lower when you are farther from the center of the Earth. Okay, but the difference is just small. That's why when you are far away from the Earth, so your weight is also less. 38. A boxer who wants to have more energy from his coming bout should eat what? Kasi kailangan mo ng energy, more energy. So, anong dapat kakainin mo in order for you to have more energy when you eventually go inside the boxing canvas, the ring? Okay? So, the answer here is, some of you might have a different answer. Okay. Okay, 38, the answer is kamote. Okay? Not dahil sa utot, no? Kamote, being a carbohydrate, carbo. So it's classified as energy-giving food. May carbo din si ice candy, I know, no? Pero not enough compared to kamote. Okay? Chicken, more on protein. Fruits, more on vitamins. Okay? 39. The highness and lowness of sound. We're now talking about the physics of sound. The highness and lowness of sound is called what? Okay. So 39, the highness and lowness of sound. You still have 31 items. No? Okay. The highness and lowness of sound is pitch. But remember also the concept. Now, pitch is the highness and lowness of sound. It's also the number of waves at a particular time. And in the wave like this, the highest point is called the crest or the peak. The crest or the peak. And the distance from the neutral center to the upper part to the crest is called the amplitude. And the distance between 2 points that are in phase, or in this case, trough to trough, peak to peak, or 2 points that are in phase, like this one and this one, is called wavelength. Trough, okay, is the lowest point of the wave. Frequency is also similar to pitch. And some of you might argue that, sir, my answer is correct naman. Frequency is the number of waves naman a particular time. Remember, a pitch is an example of frequency, but a pitch is a term used for sound. Always look at the stem. The stem talks about sound, therefore, the most correct answer is pitch. Okay, and loudness has to do with directly with amplitude. The higher the amplitude, the louder the sound gets. Number 40. Thank you for the answers. When a violent storm occurs over the West Indian region, including the Caribbean Sea, it's called a hurricane. But when it's formed in the Pacific, what do you call that violent storm? Okay, this is interesting because a violent storm, um, although it's violent, but it's the Earth's way to stabilize itself, no? Because of the difference in temperature from one far region to another far region. So your answer in number 40, where there are these, I think everybody knows the answer. So typhoon. So typhoon happens in the Pacific. Then hurricane, when we are talking about the West Indian region, like India, Sri Lanka, etc. Then the Caribbean Sea is also hurricane. Well, sometimes they call it cyclone in the Atlantic, no? In the US, they call it cyclone sometimes. Okay. Now, let's go to number 41. A spider eating an ant is an example of what? Spider eating an ant. Is it commensalism? Is it competition? Is it predation? or symbiosis? No? Okay. Spider eating an ant. 41. Yung iba alam talagang sumagot. Si Ruel, sagot agad. Thank you, Ruel. Okay, and his answer is correct. Predation. But far more than predation, let's try to understand the rest, no, of relationships, no, between organisms. So, symbiosis. So these are symbiosis, no, permanent association between two different organisms. There's such a thing as neutralism, where two organisms live together, pero they're not affected by each other, no? There's such a thing as mutual. These are also, pwede nyo ring tanongin sa sarili nyo, ganito rin ba yung relasyon ko sa boyfriend ko, sa girlfriend ko, or sa friend ko? So, are we experiencing or practicing mutualism where we are parang friends with benefits? Two organisms living together and both benefit from each other. Or is it commensalism? Is our relationship commensalism? Two organisms living together, one is benefited and the other one is not being affected with the benefit. So I'm helping you pero I'm not affected, no, with the relationship. Pwede bang ganun? Posible ba sa isang relasyon yun? Then parasitism, ito yung pinakamasakit. Dalawang organisms will living together, pero one is benefited, called parasite. The other one is harmed, called the host. Ganyan ba yung relasyon ninyo sa isa't isa? Or nila sa isa't isa? Pangit yun, no? Parasitism. Well, another relationship is synergism, where two or more microorganisms may work together and team up to produce a disease that neither could cause by itself, no? So, mga example nito, although synergism is positive, but this can also work on a negative way, like either formulation of medicinal substance, or pwede rin forming of a parasite, or forming of a virus pala, a deadly virus. So, the whole thing is symbiosis. Is it parasitism like that in the flea, or commensalism, no, like the Spanish moss in the tree, or mutualism, or like the rhino, the tick, no, in it, or is it predation, no? Pangit pa yung predation, no, klaseng relasyon yun kasi kinakain yung isa, no? So the prey, or parasitism, na example, mosquitoes, our relationship with mosquitoes, no? So parasite, or like the leech in our, if yung linta, no, with our body. So it's parasitism. So better if we see the difference in the relationship between the two. Okay, friends with benefits. Yes, Danica, friends with benefits. So kung friends with benefit, ano ba yan? That's mutualism. Okay. So number 42. Huge waves that accompany volcanic eruptions and earthquakes under the sea are called. I hope everybody can answer this correctly. Huge waves that accompany volcanic eruptions and earthquakes under the sea. So take note of the cue. Waves, volcanic eruptions, or earthquakes, and then under the sea. Okay? And so the answer is tsunami. Okay? I hope everybody gets this right. If not, well, take note, no, of this here. Tidal waves are just waves, no, produced by the usual tidal increase or decrease, no, and the difference in temperature. And the steam burst, makikita natin yan, no, in many parks, like sa Yellow Park in the US, and volcanic bombs, no, mga accumulated heat energy, and they eventually explode. Okay, thank you for your answers. Number 43, molten rock material expelled outside the Earth's surface. Molten rock material expelled outside the Earth's surface. So here, remember, outside the Earth's surface, and it's molten rock material, so it's hot, and so the answer is lava. I think I think we all know why, no? And the difference between a lava and a magma. So magma is inside. When it goes out, it becomes a lava, like this one. Okay. Now, 44. Rocks formed at the bottom of the sea are what rocks? If these rocks are formed at the bottom of the sea, they stay there in time, and because of gravity and other chemical reactions, they stay there, it becomes a rock. So it's what kind of rock? It is sedimentary rock. Again, let us review. Igneous rocks are rocks solidified from magma or lava due to extreme heat. Metamorphic rocks are rocks transformed of existing rock type, and it's also formed due to extreme heat and pressure. Sedimentary rocks are rocks formed at the bottom of the sea, among examples, and other formed because in other places because of gravity and chemical reaction. 45. If there is no atmosphere in the planet, what will happen? Which of the following conditions will occur? What will happen to the planet? Okay. Will there be absence of weather, photosynthesis, presence of oxygen, or transmission of sound? Okay? Kung walang atmosphere yung planet, which condition will happen? Absence of weather, photosynthesis, presence of oxygen, transmission of sound. Okay? So our answer number 45, merong sagot dito. I think Tanika, Mideth, and Jennifer, and Elizelle, Chari, Norlene, Mariel are correct. If there's no atmosphere, then there's no weather. No, the weather is caused by the atmosphere. No, the movement of the atmosphere from hot to cold and all the other movements, the convection of the atmosphere. So absence of weather. 46. Experts in analyzing weather data and other relevant information are called what? So what are these experts that are good in analyzing weather data? Okay. So maybe we are familiar with the term. They are the meteorologists. Metallurgists are good in terms of studying metals, minerals for mineralogists, petrologists for rocks. No? Okay. So what is the difference between rocks and minerals? Take note of this. Rocks are composed of one or more minerals. So pwede ba na isang mineral lang, rock din? Yes. No, parang Venn diagram yan. A rock can be a mineral and a mineral can be a rock, but not all rocks are minerals and not all minerals are rocks. And minerals are more homogeneous and crystalline in structure and they are naturally occurring, and rocks are composed of two or more minerals. 47. I'm sorry, I have to move fast. A particular place where an organism can be found is what? A particular place where an organism can be found is its what? Okay. Ecosystem, habitat, niche, or surroundings. Okay. This is still earth science. No? A place where an organism can be found is its habitat. Okay, habitat. B, correct. Michael, correct. LV, correct. So, habitat. And there are many animal habitats. So, merong wetlands, merong polar lands or habitat, merong rainforest. Sa atin, dito sa Philippines, we have more rainforest, we have less of a desert, but we have good marine habitat, and we also have areas where we have grasses. Is it grassland? But grassland is usually more in Africa. Okay? And then also thought of plant community, the meaning of that, the habitat, which is part of the plant community is part of, and the greater world, which is ecosystem. Okay. 48. Which of these refers to a biological community of interacting organisms and their physical environment? Biological community of interacting organisms and their physical environment. So, the organisms and the physical environment, what does that refer to? I think we're ready for the answers. Correct? Sagot ni Roel, Danica, and then Benefe. That's ecosystem. Okay? The ecosystem composed of living organisms, the biological community, and their physical environment. 49. Which is a biotic factor in an ecosystem? Biotic. So there's a term there from the term bio. I will move this one fast because I know from the term from biotic factor, you know already the answer, which is 3. Okay? These are factors that affect and nurture the existence of life. No, 3 is one example. Okay, in the biotic factors, there are 3 different factors: producers, consumers, and decomposers. And you know naman how to differentiate the 3. Okay, 50. All the members of a single species inhabiting in a given location make up what? Okay. Thank you for the answers. Very fast, no? All the members of a single species inhabiting a given location make up a or an what? Members of single species. So always take note of the stem, no? Members of a single species. Oh, remember, it's not species, but species. Oh, so there's no such thing as species, but species. Okay, even if you're talking about one of person, so one animal. So population is the answer. And under the greater one is called, uh, well, the smaller one is the organism. Then from the greater one, single species, like many of you are USA, no? In this case, so that's population. But if you are with the rest of the other animals, it's called the community, and the ecosystem includes also the physical uh, place where you are. And the biosphere is we call Earth. 51. Movement of a rock bed along a fault. Okay. Movement of a rock bed along a fault. Okay. Remember, movement of a rock bed along a fault. So, baka ma-misinterpret ninyo kung anong tinatanong dito. So, always take note of the stem. The answer here is earthquake. Okay? The process may be faulting, but the movement of a rock bed along a fault is called an earthquake. Okay? Number 52, at night, if the temperature drops to above freezing point. Above freezing point. So, water vapor in the air condenses on grass and forms what? At night, if the temperature drops to above freezing point, little bit above freezing point, what water vapor in the air condenses on grass? Sa grass and forms what? Vapor in the air condenses sa grass, usually early in the morning, and it forms to what? Okay. So the answer is sa grass, take note sa grass. So the answer here is dew. Okay. So we know that smog is smoke and fog, and frost is different, no? And then soil is also different. Dew is a condensed water vapor, no? And the water vapor on air. 53. A raised land on the surface of the earth. Medyo easy to, no? Well, thank you for the answers. All correct. A raised plant. A raised land on the surface of the earth is called mountain. Okay, so 53 is mountain. I think clear sa atin bakit. Okay. Again, we are looking for the best answer. So valley is also raised land, but mountain. But valley, medyo flat, no? Pwedeng raised land siya, pero flat in some ways. Pero the more raised land is the mountain. There are some central place na raised din ng land, but not exactly all. So mountain is far perfect as an answer. Okay, so there are also different parts of geological parts. Now, if we're talking about land, we have the sea arc here. We also have the sea stack, yung mga rocks na medyo mataas, no? Parang single lang. We also have estuaries, areas where the seawater and the what is the pure water mix. Then we also have sandbar. Please take note of the terms. Then cove. 54. The movements of the huge solid rock plates of the earth are called what? Now here, huge solid rock plates. Okay, so the answer is diastrophism. Sir, parang erosion naman yung weathering naman yan. Take note, diastrophism are movements of rock plates, solid rocks on the Earth's crust that results in formation of continents and islands. So the bigger portion is diastrophism. It's a bigger kind of movement of rock plates. Erosion is the movement, small movements of one part of the geological area to the other. In weathering, it stays there, but eventually because of friction, no, and all the other chemical reactions, then the object is weathered. No? Okay. 55. Natural transfer of soil and other materials from one place to another. Thank you for your answers. No, natural transfer of soil and other materials from one place to the other. Okay, so this one, we would see the difference. Kung natural transfer of soil, take note of transfer and other materials, soil and other materials, from one place to the other. That is what erosion is. Okay, but the one in the picture, is weathering. Erosion is different. No, this one, it doesn't transfer, but the objects, its original parts that are transferring from this point to the other, that's erosion. But this one remaining to be there because of erosion is called weathering. Okay. 56. An unknown mineral was scratched by quartz. Okay, let us analyze this. An unknown mineral was scratched by quartz. What does this mean? Okay. An unknown mineral was scratched by quartz. What does this mean? We are going already to the concept of hardness of material. Number 56. An unknown mineral was scratched by quartz. This means that blank. Okay. Is that the same hardness as quartz? Harder than quartz? Neither soft nor hard, or softer than quartz? Answers? Because it was scratched by quartz. It was scratched by quartz. So what does that mean? Because it was scratched by quartz, therefore it is softer than quartz. Okay? Kasi na-scratch nga ng quartz, di ba? Correct. Okay? So yung mga, si Mary Ann is correct, no? Here, si Mariel is correct also. Mideth, Marlu, Karen. Thank you for your answers. Take note of the Mohs scale of hardness. The term Mohs, remember that. And kino-compare yung one substance to the other. If the other one is stronger, like 10, no, diamond is the hardest of all. That is why it cannot be scratched by anything but itself. And then talc is the less hard of all. Okay. 57. A good scientist must question the authenticity of sources and the validity of conclusions. This means that he must possess which of the following attitudes? He questions the authenticity of sources and the validity of conclusions always. Not just a good scientist, a good person must do this, no? Hindi yung vulnerable always sa fake news. We question the authenticity of sources. That's why we study science. This is what it asks us to do as a good science student, no, or science teacher. What is the meaning of this? What is the name or term for this kind of attitude? Okay, you question things. You don't accept things easily. You try to check its validity. So the answer is, well, again, we're divided here. But I would like to introduce to you one very important, and this is one of my favorite attitude, no, scientific attitude. It's called Mariel, and teacher Jomar answered it correctly. The answer is skepticism. Skepticism is the ability to hold one's biases and decision for the meantime, and don't accept things right in face value. Hold it first and check its authenticity, and then validate the concept, the allegation, or whatever is being proposed. Validate it first before making a conclusion. That attitude, not paranoia, but skepticism, healthy skepticism. That attitude is a good attitude for a scientist, or for a person, or for a citizen, of Facebook. No, always don't take things as it is. Always verify. Skepticism, please don't forget that attitude, and let's all embrace no skepticism, healthy skepticism in science. That is very important. It prevents us from being chismoso lang. Okay, 58. Which agent of erosion causes potholes in the streets during heavy rain? In Ilonggo, Hiligaynon terms, we call this batche, mga batche sa streets, no? So what agent of erosion causes potholes in the streets, especially during heavy rains? Okay, the answer is, what causes potholes on the streets? The answer is flood water. Okay, not groundwater, not gravity, wind, flood water. The more flood water you have there, the more it's the road being eroded, and it turns into potholes. 59. When air molecules absorb thermal energy, they expand in most cases. No? When air molecules absorb thermal energy, they expand. What happens to air density when air molecules expand because of absorbing thermal energy? Does it decrease? Does it fluctuate, increase, or remain the same? When air molecules absorb thermal energy, they expand, causing the air density to blank. Decrease, fluctuate, increase, or remain the same. Ano kaya? Again, always, there are many concepts being included here. Thermal expansion, but more than that is density. What happens to density when air molecules expand? What happens to the air density of these air molecules? So the answer is, because the volume expands, therefore the density decreases. Okay? Remember that density is mass over volume. Therefore, it is directly proportional to mass and inversely proportional to volume. So if volume increases, density decreases. If volume decreases, density increases. Okay. Take note of that, no? Also, so it turns from solid to liquid, or liquid to gas. Because gas needs more space, so it becomes more dense. The volume expands more. 60. We have 11 more. What method is used in separating gold from sediments? If you want to separate gold from sediment, what is the process or method? The answer is panning. So you can see this one in movies, no? Like the Black Gold movie, where gold is being separated from sediments using panning. They use this one with water. 61. What mineral is used as lead for pencil? So the lead in the pencil, wala akong pencil dito. The lead in the pencil is made up of what? So if you're answering this, syempre, diamond is already out of the picture. But maybe some of us are confused whether it's graphite, gypsum, or lead. What do you think is the right answer? By the way, thank you for those who answered number 60. Okay? We're all getting the right answers. What mineral is used as lead for pencil? So many of us will answer lead, but the answer is graphite. Okay? Okay, but I think many of us are answering graphite right now. So thank God. So, but prior to this, we are led to believe that it's made up of lead. That's why it's called lead. But that was made up of lead before, but eventually they eventually learned that lead is dangerous to the health of people, no? Kinakain pa yan ng mga bata yung pencil. So they turned it into graphite, in which still works as pencil. 62. To pinpoint the exact location of the Philippines on the map, one must know the what? if you want to pinpoint the location of the Philippines on the map, let's say the globe, no? Using the globe, one must know the what. So in this case, I have to move forward. We have to know the latitude and the longitude of the Philippines so that we would know where the Philippines is. Okay? Unless otherwise, no, you're asked to look for the Philippines by if you know already how the Philippines looks like, that would be enough. The map in the map. But longitude and latitude also show us where the location of the thing that you want to locate is. 63. The amount of matter per unit volume. Siguro hindi na siguro difficult to, no? Kasi from the statement itself, it gives us already the equation. The amount of matter per unit volume. So M over V. And so this is density. The higher the density, the heavier it becomes. Diba? The lower the density, the less heavy it becomes, as shown in the equation. Which of these is a homogeneous mixture? Homogeneous mixture. Milkshake, salt solution, soil and water, or suspension. Okay? Which is a homogeneous mixture? Milkshake, salt, soil and water, or suspension? Siyempre, the answer is salt solution. Okay? Mixed water and salt. Reflected sound, sinabi na natin to kanina. So review ko lang. Sana, correct yung answer na lahat. We learned from the previous question. Reflected sound is echo, but also take note of the other two terms. Reverberation as the prolongation of sound. We don't like that when we are designing a theater. So the sound going back and forth is called reverberation. When the sound, it takes time for the sound to dissipate, that's reverberation. We don't want that. That's why we place drapers, all the other things in order to minimize the echo, the prolongation of sound. Resonance is the intrinsic frequency of the object. So lahat ng object merong resonance. That's why singers, when they sing, sometimes they can move glasses when they know the frequency, the resonance frequency of the glass. And that is because of resonance. 66, the best insulator among the following is, I have to move forward because we know the answer already. This question has been asked yesterday also. 67, okay, here. Current is a flow of what? Current is a flow of what? Is it a flow of atoms, electrons, elements, or nuclei? Thank you for your answers. Again, no? Persistent yung mga ano natin, those who follow and join us. So, current is a flow of what? Number 67. Anong flow ba yan? Anong nagpo-flow sa kuryente in a current? Take note of this concept. Current, voltage or potential difference, and resistance. So, all these three are important in Ohm's law. If you try to understand how current moves. So, the answer in number 67 is B. Okay? You don't need to put question mark, Anthony. You're right. No, B. So electrons. So electrons are moving. That's why it's called electricity. And the amount of electrons that are moving is called current. Okay? How fast it moves is due to the potential difference or voltage. And when something is stopping it from moving, it's called resistance. So for you to understand better how current works, just imagine instead of electron, water flowing. No? So the amount of water flowing is called current. How fast it flows because of gradient. No, that's voltage. And then the rocks in the river that stops water from flowing is resistance. Let's go to. By the way, so these are some of the few equations, no, in voltage, power, resistance, and current. 68, three more. Bodies of water appear more shallow than they actually are. What causes this? So when you are nowadays, many of us are going to pools or going into beaches. So we see bodies of water more often. Or even if we look at the water inside the glass, and they appear more shallow than they actually are. Okay, that's why dangerous, no? We thought that it's shallow, but when we jump over there, it's deep pala. So that kind of visual impairment, or at least tawag na, um, parang visual imagination, no? Di pala totoo yun. Hindi naman siya imagination. Actual, we can see that, but it's not the true thing. So that is caused by what? What do you think? Okay, your answer is refraction. Correct. Refraction of light. Thank you. Diffusion is the spreading, no, of light. The spreading of things, no. It can be light or something else. Dispersion is one example. Reflection is the bouncing. The bouncing. Diffusion can be anything, no, from the diffusion of smell, diffusion of water, from concentrated to less concentrated uh, situation. But diffraction is the bending of light, or the refraction of light. The bending of light because of the difference in the densities of two media. No? In this case, when you look at water with a pencil in the water, so it seems to be bent because there are two media, air molecules, the glass, the three, in fact, the glass, the beaker, the glass or beaker, and then the water, and then also air. There are 7 properties of light, many other properties you can, but take note that in this case, light travels very fast, 300,000 kilometers per second. It's also light at the same time, a form of a wave. It travels at a straight path. Uh, it can vary in intensity. No, the change in intensity can also give you the colors. It interacts with matter. Light interacts with matter. It is slower when it passes through solids like glass, and but it's also faster when it's in a vacuum. But when it goes back to the vacuum, it continues to maintain its speed, which is invariant, that is 20,000 kilometer per second. It's comprised of many colors, carries energy and information also. Okay. Again, it's both particle and a wave, and it's the particle is called photons. And light is also an electromagnetic wave, like microwave and other forms of wave. No, alpha, microwave, radio wave, ultraviolet wave, etc. Okay. And when it passes through a spectrum, or in this case, a glass prism, the white sunlight can turn into different colors. Remember Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow. So that's always a pattern, no? Uh, red having high red. Roy G. Biv. So red having longest wavelength, and then violet, smallest wavelength. Okay, or red being the low, um, the less amount of frequency, and violet having the greatest amount of frequency. So beyond violet is ultraviolet, below red is infrared. Okay, then the spectrum goes on. Okay, which of the following transmits sounds fastest? If light travels faster in vacuum and slower in gas or in liquid like water, but it goes back again to its original speed, which is 300,000 kilometer per second when it goes back to vacuum. How about sound? Diba sound travels in a medium? But what medium will sound travel the fastest? Air, alcohol, metal, water. Okay, so the answer here is, so Vem answered A, air, A. The same with Adrian and others, no? Many believe that sound travels fastest in air. In fact, the answer is the reverse of light. Sound travels faster. Correct si Ella. Take note of this, no? Light travels faster in a vacuum and slowest in solids. It's the reverse in terms of sound. Sound travels the fastest in solids, in this case metals. It also travels fast in liquids, but it's metal, it's faster. But it's the least that it will not travel at all in a vacuum. Okay? So remember that, no? So here, this is one example. In an air temperature of 40 degrees centigrade, sound travels 355 meter per second. 355 meters per second. So meaning to say, if there's a if there's a sound and it takes 1 second, if you see an explosion, it takes 1 second for you to hear the sound of explosion, meaning that explosion happened 355 meters away from you. Or so if you took it, let's say 2 seconds after, if you hear the explosion 2 seconds after, that means it's twice as much. It's about 700 or 810 meters away from you. But as you can see, it travels slower in rubber, but it travels fastest in aluminum. Okay, take note of that. By the way, this one at the right side is sonic boom. Okay, let's go to the last question at last. Sorry for the delay. Water, wind, plants, animals, and chemicals all help break down rocks into small particles in a process called what? Breaking down of rocks into small particles is the process of what? Okay. Breaking down of uh, water, wind, plant, animals, chemicals. Breaking and chemicals all help breaking down rocks. Breaking down of rocks through water, wind, plants, animals, and chemicals. What do you call this process? Okay, answers. Okay, here now. Answer is weathering, correct, no? So the one at the bottom is weathering. The one on top is what we call erosion. Okay? And the process of moving from one to the other is called accretion. That's why in law, may accretion law din also. Okay? So that's it. That's 70 items. My God, no, in 2 hours. No, exactly 2 hours because although we started 1 o'clock, then we ended up, but we really started 1:01. So I will not say anything too much anymore. I've said my piece yesterday. And one thing lang that I would like to stress. Now, we are here because we want to teach. And teaching is one of the noblest yet thankless profession. Thankless in the sense that it's very difficult, but we are still crazy enough, no, wanting to be teachers. It's difficult, but it's very noble. It touches lives, and our effect to people is endless. No, we cannot calculate how our impact to others. Kaya more than the subject, more than the science, more than the topic, it's the values that we are trying to teach our students. And the best way to teach them values is for them to see that in us. The value of generosity, the value of faith, having faith that does justice, and the value of being loving and serving, no, serving others without asking for anything in return. That is what makes teaching noble. And so I hope everyone will pass the let, and I hope we can see each other again, no, for another round for our